866-95-NATION or windonation.com.
Good morning, America. Deadly rampage. A chilling moment. A gunman opens fire at a crowded video game tournament in Florida. A laser dot appears on one of the players' chests. Shots ring out on a live stream. Then the video feed cut out. At least 2 people killed, nearly a dozen injured, before the gunman took his own life. Now the search for a motive, and this morning, 2 survivors tell their story exclusively on GMA. Amy Robach is live on the scene with the latest.
Also this morning, celebrating the life of an American maverick and a war hero, Senator John McCain, who put country over party, calling for civility above all.
Let's trust each other. Let's return to regular order.
From prisoner of war to presidential candidate and family man, the tributes pouring in all across the country. How Presidents Bush and Obama are preparing to celebrate the senator and his life of service.
Pope Francis under fire. The bombshell call for the Pope to resign from a former Vatican official, claiming the pontiff knew about a cardinal who was an alleged serial predator for years. How the Pope is responding this morning.
And say aloha to the new Little League World Series champs, Hawaii, taking home the title. A home run on the first pitch, never looking back.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Good morning, America. Welcome back this Monday morning, a morning we honor Senator John McCain. As Robin said, a true American hero. He lived a life of service to his country as a Navy pilot, a prisoner of war, and politician.
And take a look at the Arizona state capitol. Senator McCain's body will lie in state there on Wednesday. The public is invited to pay their respects, and we're going to have much more on his life and his legacy ahead.
Just ahead, but first we want to get to those new details about the mass shooting in Jacksonville, Florida at a video game competition. 3 dead, including the gunman, and nearly a dozen others wounded.
Amy Roebuck there in Jacksonville, starting us off with the latest. Good morning, Amy.
That's right. Good morning, guys. Families and this entire community are mourning the loss of those lives, in addition to the people who are, yes, still in the hospital this morning, recovering from yesterday's deadly rampage at the landing here in Jacksonville. A video live streaming service actually captured some of those chilling moments. You can hear what sounds like gunshots and screams before service disconnected. The shots ringing out around 1:30 p.m. Sunday at the Jacksonville landing.
Oh! What are you shooting with?
The mall hosting a gaming tournament. Gaming's biggest stars all playing the NFL game Madden 19, competing for a chance at hundreds of thousands of dollars in this year's championship tournament.
I just seen people just running out of there, screaming, pushing each other.
The sounds from the barrage of gunfire captured on this live stream from the event. A red dot, presumed to be from a laser, can be seen on one of the players' chests.
Pop, 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 like it didn't stop, like it was just
semi-automatic.
Yeah, it was like an automatic or something, because all you heard was just gunshots.
I seen somebody's body on the ground. I seen a kid with blood all over his clothes, people with blood on their shoes.
Marquise Williams and Taylor Poindexter were ordering pizza at the bar when the shooting broke out. Taylor sprained her ankle trying to get out in the chaos.
From what I could tell, because of the way his hands were positioned, he was aiming at somebody intentionally.
And then just basically walking back, just popping off shots.
One player shared his experience on Twitter, writing, "I'm good, got hit twice, lower body. One went through, the other was lodged." Police say at least 3 people are dead, including the shooter, identified by authorities as 24-year-old David Katz, reportedly traveling from his home in Baltimore for the tournament, where witnesses say he lost early.
And he lost over a Madden game, and he came out. It was a Caucasian white dude. He was nerdy looking. They said he got mad, went into his car, and just came back and shot everybody.
Eventually, Katz dying from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
We have got to change. We've got to really stop and say to ourselves, there's something wrong. Why are young men willing to give up their life, or why don't they value somebody else's life?
He's not here to make friends.
The suspect, who went by the name Bread during games, was a hardcore Madden gamer, regularly competing in big money tournaments and even facing off against real-life NFL stars.
I don't think of myself as a 7 seed. I think personally I'm one of the better players, and I like to let my game prove that.
This picture from last year was taken after winning one such tournament. His reasons for causing so much violence still unknown this morning.
And anyone watching, I say this. Pray for Jacksonville as we deal with this senseless tragedy.
Now, in addition to those who were killed, 11 others were hospitalized. We know this morning that at least 5 of those patients have been released. Just one of them is still in serious condition. The others have all been upgraded to good condition, which is certainly a ray of sunshine on this rainy day here in Jacksonville. Michael, back to you.
All right, thank you, Amy. And such a terrifying scene at that tournament. And now one of the people wounded in the shooting is joining us for an exclusive interview. Tony Montagnino, thank you for joining us. And Tony, first question to you. How are you feeling this morning?
I feel good. I'm in good spirits. I'm a little shook, obviously, but I have, you know, a really good support system in my family. And, you know, the guys I was with the tournament with, you know, they reached out to me all night. You know, I reached out to them, you know, to make sure they were okay. Having guys like that in your life makes something like this a lot easier to go through.
And Tony, you were in the middle of your game when you heard something that turned out to be shots. And when you heard that, what went through your mind?
I mean, I actually think you can hear my voice on there. You know, I asked, "What do you shoot me with?" You know, it's my first reaction. I heard the shots and I thought, "Why is there firecrackers in here?" And then I actually got hit. And you know, I'd never been shot before, so I didn't know what to think. And then I turned around and actually, you know, saw the flashes from the gun, and at that point, it just went into, you know, survival mode, and I just wanted to make sure I was out of there.
And did you see the shooter? And if so, did you recognize him?
I saw his silhouette. I could see his hair, but his face, he was holding the gun up, and the flashes were kind of covering his face because he was just letting them rip. And then, again, once I saw the flashes, I didn't want to stick around to try to ID him, so I hit the floor and tried to find cover wherever I could.
And I know, Tony, you also had a friend who was shot. How is your friend doing?
I mean, everybody there I knew and I would consider friends. I feel like I was a lucky one. You know, there's 2 guys, and, you know, I'm never going to get to shake their hand at a tournament again. You know, and I'm in a hospital room next to my buddy who's, you know, he's got 2 bullets in his chest, and they said they're probably never going to be able to get him out again. And he's doing good, but it really breaks my heart to see guys that I care about as much as I do, you know, hurting, and to see their families grieving, and it's really something that I don't want anybody to ever have to deal with.
We definitely understand that. And these video games, they are competitive. The situations do become emotional. But did you ever think you would see something like this happen at one of these tournaments?
Never. Never in a million years would I thought I would ever get shot playing John Madden football. It's it's hard if people knew stuff and knew what was going to happen. You know, it would be an easy fix. But I mean, it happened at a Madden tournament, but I feel like it could have happened, you know, anywhere.
Well, Tony Montagnino, we thank you for joining us, and we're happy that you are okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Robin.
All right, Michael. We'll have the latest on that all morning long, but we're going to turn now to the celebration of Senator John McCain's life, the American hero, passing away Saturday, surrounded by his loved ones. Tributes pouring in for the maverick of the Senate, remembered as a man who put principle above party, service above self. His wife, Cindy, tweeting, "My heart is broken. I am so lucky to have lived the adventure of loving this incredible man for 38 years. He was surrounded by the people he loved in the place he loved best." And ABC's Terry Moran is near the McCain family ranch there in Sedona, Arizona. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Robin. Yeah, this is the place, really so beautiful, even in these pre-dawn hours. John McCain, an American original. He was tested like few of us ever are. He passed that test and went at life with a gusto and a decency and a character that makes his passing seem like the end of an era in American politics and American life. For John McCain, the tributes have been pouring in around the world for a man remembered this morning as a political maverick and an American hero.
I've had the good fortune to spend 60 years in service to this wondrous land,
And I've been repaid 1,000 times over with adventures, with good company, with the satisfaction of serving something more important than myself.
The hearse carrying McCain's body left his beloved ranch Saturday evening, a police officer raising a solemn salute, a citizen's farewell sign. Across the country, heartfelt tributes. President Obama, who defeated McCain in 2008, writing, "We saw our political battles even as a privilege, something noble." And President George W. Bush, McCain's 2000 rival, saying, "Some lives are so vivid, it is difficult to imagine them ended." McCain's friend and fellow Arizona Senator Jeff Flake overcome with emotion.
It's tough. I'm going to miss him.
Even the man who ran the infamous Hanoi Hilton prison camp where McCain was tortured as a prisoner of war and held for over 5 years paid tribute, saying, "I would like to send condolences to his family. He has greatly contributed to the development of Vietnam-U.S. relations." John McCain spent his life in service to his country. Born into a military family in 1936, he graduated from the Naval Academy in Annapolis. A fighter pilot, he went to Vietnam and flew 23 missions. Then he was shot down and captured in 1967, beaten and tortured. And then when his captors learned his father was an admiral commanding the Pacific Fleet, they offered to release him. But McCain refused. He would not leave while other Americans who had been there longer were still prisoners. He finally returned home in 1973. And he entered politics, elected to the House of Representatives in 1982 and the Senate 4 years later. He would run for president twice, in 2000 and then again in 2008, winning the Republican nomination and campaigning against then-Senator Barack Obama. As the race grew tense with some voters uncomfortable about Obama, McCain actually defended his opponent.
I can't trust Obama. I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not. No?
No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with.
After that stunning announcement of brain cancer last year, McCain returned to the Senate floor just days after surgery. He defied President Trump and his own party, casting the decisive vote to stop the GOP effort to repeal and replace Obamacare, a move that drew audible gasps. He was not afraid to call out members of his own party, including President Trump, calling for civility on the Senate floor.
Let's trust each other. Let's return to regular order.
And in one of his final public appearances, McCain joining his daughter Meghan.
I love you so much.
In her statement after her father's passing, Meghan McCain wrote these words: "All that I am is thanks to him. Now that he is gone, the task of my lifetime is to live up to his example, to his expectations, and his love." Just a beautiful tribute there. The commemorations of John McCain, the celebrations of his life, begin on Wednesday. He will lie in state at the Arizona State Capitol, and then an Arizona memorial service where Joe Biden, among others, will speak on Thursday. Then to Washington, D.C. on Friday. John McCain will lie in state in the U.S. Capitol, a national celebration of his life at the National Cathedral on Saturday, and Senator McCain will be laid to rest at the Naval Academy on Sunday. Robin.
Quite fitting. And Terry, we hear that the governor of Arizona is going to wait until after the senator is laid to rest to name his replacement.
That's right. Politics waits for no man at the end of the day. And Governor Doug Ducey here has said a couple of things. First, he said, out of respect for this period of mourning and celebration of John McCain, he will not name McCain's replacement, which he has the right to do under the Constitution of Arizona. He's going to do that later. Among the candidates, McCain's widow, Cindy McCain.
Terry, thank you.
Okay, Robin, thanks. President Trump did not appear in public to praise John McCain or issue an official White House statement. The two men were bitter adversaries. Instead, Trump tweeted a condolence. Here's what it said: "My deepest sympathies and respect go out to the family of Senator John McCain. Our hearts and prayers are with you." I want to bring in our senior White House correspondent, Cecilia Vegan. Cecilia, something else unusual this morning. I want to show it up on the screen right now. The White House flags were flying at half-staff yesterday. This morning, they are back up. That is highly unusual. Usually with an honor like this, they remain down through the burial.
Exactly. And our cameras caught them being raised again around midnight. No response so far, George, from the White House yet. I've talked to sources there. Everyone seems to be sort of scratching their heads about what happened. But you're right. This breaks from precedent for John Glenn, for Barbara Bush. Those flags were down until interment. This is not the only thing happening right now. The Washington Post says that aides wanted to release a formal statement praising John McCain as a hero, but he nixed that idea and released just that tweet that you mentioned instead. That tweet in and of itself has raised some eyebrows because it doesn't mention any of McCain's achievements or speak about him in any kind of personal way at all. And that really, again, is bucking from tradition of past presidents. Obama, Bush, two men who beat him in the past offered glowing public remembrances over the weekend. The list of others goes on, from the First Lady to Ivanka and the Vice President. Much of the president's cabinet offered glowing praise of John McCain. We all know this. They had an acrimonious relationship, a very public one. It was no secret. Of course, George, you remember during the campaign, then candidate Donald Trump said that John McCain was not a war hero because real war heroes aren't captured. So this response from the White House, particularly from the president's critics, raising a lot of eyebrows.
And of course, the president also upset by John McCain's vote on the repeal of Obamacare. It appears that we now know that both President Obama and President Bush will deliver eulogies at the National Service. President Trump unlikely to attend.
Reportedly, the McCain family asked that Trump not attend before McCain had even passed. We know that Vice President Pence will attend, and so far, George, it is not an attendance of this funeral is not on the president's schedule for the week.
Okay, Cecilia, thanks. Let's bring in our Chief Global Affairs anchor, Martha Raddatz, our Chief White House correspondent, John Carl. Both covered John McCain for many years. And Martha, let me begin with you. That attack on John McCain as a war hero by President Trump struck so deep. This was really the signature moment, one of the signature moments of John McCain's life when he refused to come home.
It was indeed, George. And let's go back to when he was captured. And President Trump talked about him not being a hero because he was captured. He was captured because he was shot down, because both his arms were broken when he ejected from that airplane. His knee was broken. He sank to the bottom of a lake. I've seen that lake in Hanoi. He fought to raise himself up in that water. He inflated his life vest with his teeth because his arms wouldn't move. He was hit with rifle butts when he was captured and hit with bayonets as well. He had no chance to do anything else but that, and it was incredibly courageous.
It certainly was. And John, Senator McCain also showed courage in his political life, didn't fit neatly into a partisan box.
No, he relished fighting anybody, including the leaders of his own party, George. He said that he relished the fight. He enjoyed to fight in inverse proportion with his odds of winning it, and he took on some mighty causes, failed in some of those. He tried to get immigration reform passed. He also did succeed in passing campaign finance reform, but lost the overall war on the question of big money in politics. But he is somebody who had some epic battles with members of his own party, as well as with Democrats.
A giant in American politics. John, Martha, thank you both. Robert?
Bipartisan accomplishments he was able to achieve, and just as his principled leadership is something that will be missed. We're going to have much more, of course, on the senator's life throughout the morning. Talk about his family and he had a great sense of humor.
Sure did.
We're going to share that as well. But now let's go to Ginger with a heat wave that's hitting the Northeast. Ginger?
Yes, it will. Already hitting in parts of the Midwest. That big ridge is just sitting there, and it's going to bring in heat indices like St. Louis 100 today, Chicago 100. It'll really settle in here tomorrow and Wednesday. Your local weather in 30 seconds. First, the select cities, sponsored by Walmart.com.
Everybody, get it started. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here.
An uncomfortable and oppressive next couple of days, these final days of August here. Today, 92, more schools back in session. It'll feel like we're up around 100 degrees. And then 103 for Tuesday, 104 for Wednesday, mid part of the work week. That's when this heat is going to peak. Rain chances, not much of any rain coming our way until Thursday and Friday of this week. And we could see chances continue as we head into Labor Day weekend. Saturday, Sunday, highs in the mid to upper 80s.
Coming up, the announcer who was there calling the video game competition when a gunman opened fire is now telling his story.
And that bombshell accusation against Pope Francis, why a former Vatican official is calling for him to resign.
Let's get married.
We've been dating less than a year.
I know.